Hello and welcome to the Album Man, and today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my CD collection. So yeah, sorry this part's been quite a long time, but anyway, I'm doing it now. So we're going from E to I, yeah. So, The Editor's Backroom, a really good indie album from not a very well-known band, but it contains some great songs like Lights and Munich. It's worth checking out if you like stuff like the Kaiser Chiefs and Killers. 18 Visions Vanity. Now, I discovered this band quite weirdly. I saw the next album of theirs I'm going to be showing you, Obsession, I think, in CEX for £1, and I'd never heard of the band, so I just decided to pick it up based on, well, I don't know based on what really, just based on it was £1, and I actually enjoyed it, and I picked up one of their other albums for £1 as well, Vanity, so that was good. Yeah, and this is the album Obsessions, which I discovered them on. It is a good album. It's worth checking out. 18 Visions, not a known band, but they're good. Then we come to Electric Light Orchestra, a band that I adore so much. And here we have On the Third Day. We have Face the Music, one of my favourite of their albums, probably my second favourite of their albums. We have Out of the Blue, which is probably my favourite, I'd say. I mean, such a great album. The Concerto for a Rainy Day, which includes Mr. Blue Sky, so good. A New World Record, which has some famous songs like Rockaway and Shangri-La, another great album. And then this was one of my first CDs ever, was a very best of the Electric Light Orchestra, because I really loved the track Mr. Blue Sky. But when I listened to the rest of it, I can't say I liked it at the time, but now, yeah, I love ELO to death. Right, then we have a good prog band. We have Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or ELP for short, and their album Brain Salad Surgery. Probably their most famous album, and arguably their best, especially as it contains the epic 30-minute song Carnival 9, which is fantastic, really fantastic. It's quite weird how the single Brain Salad Surgery didn't actually appear on the album itself, but this is a remaster of it, so it contains stuff like the Brain Salad Surgery single, which is good. Now I move into Elton John, and I have Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which I picked up last month. Listen to that, absolutely fantastic album, really enjoyed it. We have Elton John's The One, one of his 90s albums. Elton John's Songs from the West Coast, and this has one of my favourite Elton John songs, and one of his most underrated, definitely, which is the first track on this album, Emperor's New Clothes. Any Elton fan who doesn't know that, listen to it. Fantastic song. And we have Peachtree Road. If you can see that, yeah. And I have quite a lot of Elton John greatest hits from when I was younger, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and this is the definitive greatest hits, definitely. If you're a casual Elton John fan, this is the one to get in 1970 to 2002. Even though he's, released great albums since 2002, like The Captain and the Kid, it is the definitive Elton John album, I'd say. Well, not album, but, sort of compilation. Okay, now we move on to this great thing, which is And Before Elf, There Were Elves, and as you can see, it's a lenticular cover, which is, that's pretty cool. And basically, this is one of Dio's first bands. It's his first proper band, I'd say, and he played bass and, vocals in this band. And, it's a really, really interesting piece of, Dio history, effectively. Okay, now we move on to Elvis. So, I have some generic compilations of his. That's pretty much most of what I have of Elvis. Especially this is the, so-called, all-time greatest hits. I'm not a massive Elvis fan, but I like him enough to have a few compilations. And then for E, the last one we have is The Cream of Eric Clapton, pretty much the definitive Eric Clapton compilation. You know, really like Clapton, need to get some of his albums, really do. Okay, so moving on to F. We start out with Feeder, and this is their album Echo Park, which contains the massive single Buck Rogers, which pretty much everyone knows and appeared on a Lucozade advert, I think, like last year. And then we have Comfort in Sound, their most famous album, featuring Comfort in Sound, and, what's the other track? Yeah, Just the Way I'm Feeling, Come Back Around. Yeah, it's, you know, fantastic album. You know, it is their classic album. And then we have Feeling a Moment, which has, I think, Tumble and Fall on it, one of my favourite tracks. Yeah, Tumble and Fall. Yeah, Silent Cry, I think their 2007 album, really good album, especially It's Sumo. One of my absolute favourite Feeder tracks is It's Sumo. Great album, peters off a bit towards the end, but it's a good album. And then we have Renegades, a 2009 release, which was a lot rawer and heavier than stuff like Silent Cry and Comfort and Sound. Interesting, but I can't say it really captivated me. I didn't like it too much. It has grown on me since seeing them on this tour, you know, play some of the songs live, like Down by the River's grown on me a lot. But overall, it's definitely not my favourite Feeder album. And then we have their new one, Generation Freak Show, which I only got the other day, and I'm going to definitely be doing a review of this soon, so won't tell you my opinions yet. Okay, and then last but not least, I have a Feeder singles, which I've had, you know, for quite a long time. Okay, so Flying Colours, one of my albums of this year, definitely. The supergroup consisting of Mike Portnoy on drums, Casey McPherson on vocals, Dave LaRue on bass, Neil Morse on keyboards and vocals, you know, bits of vocals, and Steve Morse on guitar. Absolutely fantastic album. Really anyone should check it out. It's definitely not, you know, Portnoy's type of metal. It's a more sort of, you know, more poppier type thing. But, you know, don't let that put you off. It's fantastic. Okay, now we move on to the Foo Fighters. So, this album I got not long ago, Colour and the Shape. I can't say I've listened to it late yet, but, you know, I do love the Foo Fighters. And then I have There Is Nothing, which features Learn to Fly, my second favourite Foo Fighters song. Just straighten those. One by One, which has All My Life, another one of my favourites. In Your Honor, you know, another great album. And my favourite Foo Fighters album definitely has to be Echo, Silence, Patience, Grace. Easily the most underrated album, and it is fantastic. Stuff like The Pretender, I would say The Pretender is the best song they've ever done. And Long Road to Ruin, another fantastic song. I just think from start to finish, from The Pretender to Home, you know, it's just fantastic album. And Foo Fighter fans just do not give it enough credit. It's really phenomenal album. And then lastly, the Foo Fighters, I just have a greatest hits. I don't have Wasting Light yet, but yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of it. Okay, then we have a good old Foreigner compilation to end F. I have now picked up some Foreigner on vinyl, which is good, but I've had this compilation a while, and it is a, you know, decent compilation. Okay, we move on to G. And we start off with the legendary Gary Moore, who died in 2011, I think. No, 2000, yeah, I think, yeah, it was last year. Phenomenal loss of, you know, guitar and blues, but this is before he turned blues. This is one of his rock albums in the 80s, you know. Corridors of Power, good album. But the album he's probably best known for his solo stuff has to be Still Got the Blues. I mean, his most famous album is probably Thin Lizzy's Black Rose, but Still Got the Blues is his best solo album, his most famous, and it's just fantastic. Gary Moore Blues Live, a blues album from, you know, a few years after Still Got the Blues. I mean, live album even, absolutely fantastic. Then I have Live at Montreux, the last album, well, ever of Gary Moore's, to be quite honest. and includes some brand new tracks, Days of Heroes, Well You Now, and Oh Wild One, which he would have put on his new album if he lived long enough to make it. Yeah, very sad. And then last but not least, we have, well, pretty much actually least, yeah, just a Gary Moore Blues and Ballads, good old compilation. So let's move on to some Genesis. And we start out with Foxtrot, a great Peter Gabriel Genesis album, which has Time for Supper, or Supper Time, I just see the exact name, quite hard to read. Yes, Supper's Ready even, very hard to read on here. This is, one of the more original CD things, it's, sounds okay. And now we move on to some Phil Collins, Invisible Touch. I can't say I like this album too much. It's too poppy for me. I'm a Peter Gabriel Genesis fan, definitely. Phil Collins Genesis, he's a great drummer, but not really my stuff. And then I do have We Can't Dance as well, but, not big fans of those albums. Right, now we move on to Green Day. And yes, I do have a lot of Green Day albums, literally everything from 1039/Smoothed Out Happy Hours all the way to Awesome as Fuck. So let's go through them. Green Day, they used to be my favourite band ever. So I've always had a soft spot for them when I did collect all the albums. And we have here Kaplunk. So these earlier albums, the first album has a different drummer to Trey Cole. It's a good album, so is Kaplunk. Insomniac, another, they just have decent songs, but as albums, they're not the strongest. But then we get to Dookie, which is their second best album, definitely. And it really is a great record. And then we have Nimrod. We have Warning, and I've never been quite sure what this is exactly. If it's an album or compilation type thing, I've never been quite sure. Or is it this one I was never quite sure about? No, I think it was Shenanigans, I was not quite sure. I don't know, it's one of those albums, I wasn't sure what exactly it is, but yeah, anyway, I have them. And then we get, this is signed Green Day, International Super Hits. I've just, had this after I bought American Idiot to check out the back stuff, and, I enjoyed it. And then, of course, we have their best album, American Idiot, arguably one of the best, most influential albums of last decade. Last decade wasn't the biggest rock decade ever, but fantastic rock album, really is. Still enjoy it to this day. And then we have the live version of it, which is Bullet in a Bible. It does have some of the older stuff, but this is pretty much the live American Idiot. Then we have one of their worst albums, 21st Century Breakdown. Not that it's bad, I think Uno's definitely going to top it for worst with Oh Love, which is the worst track I think they've ever done. But that's a different story, but this album, it was just disappointing. 21st Century Breakdown, phenomenal song. Know Your Enemy, fantastic. Horses and Hand Grenades, except for that, it's just, too much filler. It's like, let's see, 18 songs, and most of them are filler. Just too much filler on that album. And then we have the live one, Awesome as Fuck. And, yeah, it's not the best live album. I'd say Green Day are going downhill. But I still follow them. Anyway, now we get to my first and only classical thing I own, weirdly. I don't own any Mozart or anything like that yet. I plan to get some. But yes, this is Grieg's Peer Gynt Suite. And my favourite piece of classical music, definitely the Peer Gynt Suite, including Morning and Hall of the Mountain King, probably my two most favourite classical compositions. Fantastic, classical album. Now I move on to classical, to my favourite band ever. Guns N' Roses. We have Appetite. What can I say? It's my joint favourite album ever. What more need I say? Then we have Lies, which includes the Live Suicide EP, and Patience, which is a fantastic song. And we have Use Your Illusion 1, and of course, Use Your Illusion 2. The classic double album, yeah, I love this double album just dearly. Everything except for My World is a phenomenal track. My World's just weird, I don't even count it. I honestly do not count it as a track on these albums. And then we have The Abomination of Spaghetti Incident, messed up covers, just, no. And I have this weird thing I found, Guns N' Roses Transmissions. Yeah, I'm a, big fans, and this just has stuff from the MTV Music Awards, from Farm Aid, just interesting stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty cool actually. Pretty cool. Sound quality is a bit crap though. And then we have the only live thing they've ever done on CD, which is Live Era 87 to 93, and this is just a compilation of live stuff. Still, it's great to have songs like, Night Train, Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, all those songs live. Really great to have that. And then last, and most definitely least, has to be Chinese Democracy. I've recently done a review of this. I expressed my absolute hatred of this album. Yeah, well, watch my review if you want more info. Yeah, that's it for G. Now we move on to H. And we have Hailstorms, A Strange Case of, great rock album of this year. Surprised me, didn't know of Hailstorm till this year. The lead singer, Lizzie Hale, fantastic voice, great album. And then here I have one of these two original classic album things of Hawkwind, which includes Masters of the Universe and Hall of the Mountain Grill. And I think Masters of the Universe had Lemmy on, which is always really cool. And I haven't listened to that much, but I really need to listen to more of this, definitely. But it sounds good by what I've heard. Then we have Heaven and Hell. No, not the album Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath, but a band which consists of Dio, Iommi, Butler, and Appice. Basically it is, Mob Rules era Heaven, Mob Rules era Sabbath, but Ozzy wouldn't let them use the name. This is a great album, The Devil, even if Appice's drumming is awful for him. But, well, it's not awful, but it's not as good. But that's because, Butler effectively wrote all the drum things on a drum machine. He just had to copy it. It wasn't given much liberation. Yeah, even if Dio hadn't have died, this probably would have been the last Heaven and Hell album due to Vinny Appice's... None of them liked it too much, but I think it's a good album. It has some good songs on it, definitely. Then we have one of the most underrated albums in my collection, Hot Legs, Red Light Fever. Now, I'm a Darkness fan, definitely looking forward to Hotcakes. And this is an album I should like. This is an album no one should like. But yet, it is fantastic. I mean, it's a Justin Lee Hawkins solo album that's very, pretty obscure. No one really bought it. No one cared about it. No one saw Hot Leg live. The cover and name was taken as a joke. It seems like a big joke, but the thing is, it contains some bloody good music on it. I've Met Jesus and Trojan Guitar are fantastic songs. It's one of those albums I listen to thinking, I'm not going to like this anymore. I've grown out of this. But no, every time I put it on, it's just like, yeah, this is just great music. Really good. Do check it out, especially if you're a Darkness fan. Or Falsetto fan. And now we get to my Iron Maiden. And now, most of my things are in chronological order, and of course I have Number of the Beast, but with Iron Maiden, because of this, stupid face thing, I like to have it in, I don't, have near enough to complete the face, but have it in rough order. So I have Seventh Son of the Seventh Son here, I have Power Slave here, with One of the Ancient Mariner, another two fantastic albums. Then I have Number of the Beast, another fantastic album. Peace of Mind, but not the remastered one, unfortunately. I have Brave New World, their comeback album after the not very good Blaze Bayley albums, and absolutely Triumphant Return, fantastic album. Then probably my favourite Maiden album, Matter of Life and Death. I just adore this to death, really, especially For the Greater Good of God. That's a great song. And then probably my second favourite, or joint second favourite Maiden album, is The Final Frontier, especially When the Wild Wind Blows, El Dorado. I mean, yeah, I saw them live on this tour, fantastic, and I picked this up for £2.50 only the other day. Fantastic find, because I didn't have this. So yeah, that concludes my CD collection part 2, and yeah, this has got 20 minutes, so you can tell why I'm splitting it up into parts, as I have a lot of CDs. So yeah, thanks for watching, this has been the Album Man, and as usual, long live rock and roll, if I can get these signs in.